when you're planting those seeds of success, the manure of life tends to just be over you while you're growing in the dirt. And now that I have my big break, it's like, I feel like I'm finally planted, I'm finally blossoming, and people are finally seeing what I've been cooking up for so many years.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of VC Talks. My name is Unique, and today we're with one of the stars of CBS hit series, Ghost. I'd like to welcome Danielle Pinnock to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here today. And before we dive into your character and your story, there's one story that you recently shared that we need to talk about. And that is the story of how you pretend to be Patty LaBelle's niece.
Yes, I did. It's so funny being around Times Square now because I used to work in Times Square at Actors Equity. I was an audition monitor and very broke at the time, and so couldn't really afford theater tickets. And so me and a lot of my friends would put on accents or play characters and say we forgot our tickets. And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, they would let us in. Okay. And so Patty LaBelle, who was one of my favorite singers of all time, was in a production of Viola. And my friend Sean Thompson, I love him so much, we decided we were going to be a married couple and that we would have lost our tickets and that Patty LaBelle was my auntie. And so we went in there. Mind you, a very important part of the story is that Sean Thompson is very queer and very out loud and proud. And so for us trying to be a married couple, it was full on shenanigans. And so he was like, yes, this is my wife. And I was like, we came all the way here from Dallas. I'm here to see my auntie Patty. Where are the tickets? She said she left them for us. And after a lot of kind of arguing and talking, they said, you know what, let's just put you upstairs in the balcony. One of the best performances I've ever seen. And then in the intermission, I was like, I see 2 seats in the orchestra pit. Let's go down there. And so me and Sean went, and at the end, in her final number, she comes downstairs down the aisle and gives me a kiss on my forehead. And I felt that was her way of sis, I clocked you, but I'm not gonna embarrass you right now. But yeah, I used to do that all the time, and I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore.
Have you seen her since that happened?
I haven't seen her since that happened, but I remember seeing her a lot in concert at NJPAC when I was growing up and different venues, but she throws one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life. And when her shoes come off, baby, it's game time, okay?
I love that, the art of finesse, and you already know how to do that because you're a Jersey girl.
Yes. Yes, Turnpike Queen, okay?
It was something so easy for you. But what wasn't easy for you was your journey to this position now. 17, 20 years just to get that first yes and to be a quote-unquote overnight success?
Yeah. I have been waiting in the wings for a long time and just patiently waiting for my turn. And during that wait, I was doing theater for 20 plus years and comedy in Chicago, New York, and overseas in England. And I feel like when you're planting those seeds of success, the manure of life tends to just be over you while you're growing in the dirt. And now that I have my big break, it's like, I feel like I'm finally planted, I'm finally blossoming, and people are finally seeing what I've been cooking up for so many years. And so it's just an honor to finally have my big break on one of the best shows on network TV right now, Ghost. And being able to play Alberta has absolutely changed every aspect of my life. She is a 1920s Prohibition era ghost, but she's given me so much confidence. And I just think she's so laugh out loud funny and vulnerable, but also the job has allowed me to take care of my family now. And my family's Jamaican, and so the WhatsApp has been blowing up. But it just feels really good that I can leave my legacy in that way too.
All right, but let's go back to that big break.
Yeah.
Because you were doing these shows, you were traveling, you were in Chicago, you were in Europe, you were in New York. But why didn't those feel like big breaks for you?
Well, you know what? At the time, they all kind of did. But for me, I always wanted to be on television. Okay. I think that was my big dream. And for a very long time, I didn't feel like it was going to happen because I was also very self-conscious about my body. And I was like, oh, can I be on TV? I got this double chin. I don't really know. And I remember I was at Second City doing my one-woman show, Body Courage. And Whitney Cummings and a few casting directors came to see the project. And they said, you know what? We have an audition audition in LA. And I was so nervous because I never auditioned for TV before. And I did the audition, lost the role to a YouTuber, mind you. And the casting director said, I know this role didn't work out, but I think you need to come up here. And so I said, okay, I can't come to LA with no money because Chicago money and LA money is very different.
Very different.
And so I found a project at the Geffen Playhouse that Coleman Domingo was directing, who was just Oscar nominated, my friends. They're thriving. And I auditioned for that project, and Coleman said, listen, it's already, all the roles already cast, but you can be the understudy. Do you mind? I said, listen, I will sweep the floors of the theater to work with you. And that project was kind of the launching point to my career because I got to work with Hollywood's best and got to meet Hollywood's best. Ava DuVernay was in the audience, and all of these incredible artists, Viola Davis. And so that project really did change my life. And I feel like everything has been a launching point to where I am now. And I feel like, honestly, I am just at the beginning in a weird way as well, too. I feel like there's so much more to come.
And I thought it was, very powerful to speak about, how when you were going through your auditioning processes, it gave you, anxiety.
Yes, it did.
And, fear to the point where it's I don't even want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But what about the experience gave you anxiety?
I have to say it is unnatural to go to a job and hear no all the time. Even when I was working my side hustles at my desk jobs and when I used to work for Girl Scouts of America, if I would go to work and just show up and they'd be like, no, go home. No, go home. It's basically like that when you're auditioning. And so I was not booking any roles. There was maybe about a 2 or 3 year span where I wasn't booking. And so I was creating my own work and doing my one-woman show at that time. And it was hard for me because I needed to support myself and my family. And I developed a lot of anxiety of am I not good enough? And why don't people like me? And at that time, I had kind of a pick-me attitude of can you please just see how good I am? I'm trained, I've done all the right things. But then I had to change my mindset and realize I actually don't need these people to pick me. I need to pick myself. I need to choose myself and know that I'm good. And I need to walk into these rooms differently. I can't walk in there desperate and wanting all the time. I need to show them that, no, I'm good enough. If you don't want me, that's fine. I'll create my own work and I will make my own seat at the table. And I think that anxiety did start, but then I had to go to therapy and realize why I was so stressed out all the time and also take a break from the industry. And I'm telling you, when the pandemic came, that was really the longest absence I've had because globally we were all struggling. But when Ghost came, it came at the tail end of 2020. And I feel like after taking that long hiatus and now being ready to approach TV again, it just came at the right time. It really did, that project.
Do you feel like all the no's were just now looking back, they were all protection to get you to this yes?
I think so, because honestly, I don't think I would have been ready to have received my big break earlier in my career. There are so many things now that I've grown. I'm in my mid-30s, mid-30s and proud, okay? But I feel like I was so ready for Ghost to happen. I had the right team as well, too. I have great publicists, great agents, managers, a great attorney. And so all of those things kind of work together for the good, right? And so I wouldn't have been ready beforehand, for sure.
I know, speaking of teams, you spoke about how during the strikes, you had to reorganize your team.
Yes.
Because some of them were just
yeah.
We don't see you making money within this digital space.
Yes, and I have to say that, it's all love. For a lot of the teams that I was on, I was a very small fish in big ponds, and I now have the right team for me. And I think for anyone that is looking for those big, agencies or things, just find someone there that sees you for who you are and for all of your talents. And for me, now that I have just so much confidence in my gift, right? No one can tell me any different. And so if they're not seeing it, that's okay. I'll move on to the next till somebody can see it. Because I know what I have to offer this world, and I know what comes with me being the artist that I am.
So what helped build that confidence? Because I know you're very active in a writer's room about how your character is portrayed. I know a lot of people, when they're getting that big break, they're afraid to say too much. Yeah. They don't want to ruin the moment. But what gave you that courage to be no, this is how it should play out?
I think there's a way of just channeling my grandmother. My grandmother and my mom are probably the most confident people that I know. And also I have to say that there are some incredible mentors that I have in this industry. Davine Joy Randolph, who is a very dear friend of mine who just won the Oscar, is one of them. There's Kimberly Hebert, Yvette Nicole Brown. Like, there are so many women that are paving the way for me. And so if there were any questions that I had where I was afraid to rock the boat, I would always call them first and say, how do I deal with this? How do you say this? And, and they would always give me great advice. And so I think that's always one thing in the industry. If there are any actors that are watching this, find some good mentors, that can really kind of usher you into this industry in a way that will keep you protected, but also where your yes matters as well too. Confidence came from my family. And for a long time, I didn't have confidence. Growing up, I was a very nerdy kid. I used to wear bifocals. I was in three-piece suits all the time from Burlington Coat Factory. I used to look like Steve Harvey and Maxine Waters' love child. I used to look crazy, okay? But I think now over the years, having the training that I do and having a great community like pouring into me all the time, that gives me confidence as well. And also with Ghost, my cast is incredible. We're such a great ensemble, and they give me the confidence to know that I'm portraying this character well as well. So, yeah.
But not only that, because you have to think back, you definitely had confidence during those times you felt like you did, because you told your mom you wanted to be an actress.
Yeah, and that was hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, because being Jamaican American, first generation, we're supposed to be lawyers, doctors, and engineers, or nurses, and that's really kind of it. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom, when I was 15 years old, we were in the car, and she said, this acting thing is temporary. I really just need you to have an after-school activity, but I want you to be a lawyer. And I said, Mom, that's not going to be the craft for me. I can't do it. And she said, no, you're going to do that. And I said, one day I'm going to be a famous actor, and you're not going to be able to tell me any differently. And she brings it up all the time, because she said I wasn't arguing with her. I was very calm, and she felt like in that moment I was manifesting my career, but she couldn't see it. And I'm so glad that I chose this profession, but also that I had her as a mom, because she supported me every step of the way. She put me in piano lessons and voice lessons, and my family was like, girl, why are you doing all this stuff with this girl right now? Go get her into nursing school ASAP. She was like, no, let me just encourage her. And that encouragement, I would say, for any immigrant families, watching this is important. If you see that your kids are interested in something else, encourage them to do other things, and don't be scared, because you never know where it can lead.
Was this like before or after she saw you play Captain Hook?
Oh my God, after Captain Hook, but the other thing is my whole family is very supportive, I have to say. Like, they would come to the shows in church buses and bring the snacks, and I went to private school, with a very white private school, and they would be coming in with full oxtails and beef patties and cocoa bread, and they'd be passing it around, and I love that so much, because I was like, yes, having them at those shows at that early age just made me feel even safer to be in those spaces, because a lot of times I was the token, I was the only one, and so to see other faces that look like mine in the audience just made me feel just so much calmer. It made me feel, okay, my people are here, I'm good to go, and I can perform, and they've been with me every step of the way.
So did they bring all that to Library of Congress?
They did not. They were let me tell you, Library of Congress, everybody was in check, okay? But it was so good to see them. Some of them I hadn't seen since before the pandemic, because I live in Los Angeles, and a lot of my family's on the East Coast. But the Library of Congress experience was incredible, because as a kid, I was like Matilda. I used to stay in the library reading books all the time, and to see all of that history was, I saw the first sheet music that Duke Ellington ever wrote, and Ma Rainey, and learned all these stories about Alberta Hunter, who the character is based off of, who was a famous jazz singer during the time, and how she was best friends with Langston Hughes. And it just felt amazing seeing that part of our history that we normally don't get to hear about. And it was really inspiring for me to say, all of these artifacts have survived. They are survivors. And I'm like, let me save these journal entries that I have. Who knows, maybe one day when I'm gone, someone can find these and put these in the Library of Congress. But yeah, it was a fabulous experience. We're really lucky that we got to have it.
Because I know they each gift you guys with something that was representative of your character. So was it the Duke Ellington and Ma Rainey?
Yes, it was a lot of sheet music. There was a lot of history about how the mobsters in the 1920s were supporting jazz artists, which I had no idea about, and like funding their tours and funding their appearances on stage. And so that was great because Alberta talks a lot about her rubbing shoulders with Al Capone. So I was like, let me find out Al Capone was funding the tour, okay? But it was really great to get that knowledge. But there were so many other things we learned about our other characters as well, and it really was amazing. I have to say that as a first-generation Jamaican kid, like when my family came up to America, they lost a lot of things in the civil conflict. And so I don't have like baby pictures of my grandmother. I don't have like little memorabilia and like jewelry, the things that were passed down. So seeing those pieces of history made me feel like I was a part of it too. It really did. And so it's an experience I'll never forget.
I also want you to speak on, like, you've recently penned, like, an open letter with Washington Post to Lizzo. And within it, you, like, talked about some of your personal experiences. Was, like, that was your first time opening up about any of that stuff?
Yes, it was. I'm actually currently writing my first book right now. And so we will dive deeper into those things. And body positivity, I feel like I'm very new to the movement of it all, but I have been, trying to love myself and my body for a very long time, probably since I was a little kid. And I would say that self-hate is a generational curse that my family has. You know what I mean? Whether it's like, and we go through a lot. And so when I was a teenager, I was suffering with eating disorders and constant dieting and things like that, especially during the time of my father's passing. And so now trying to rebuild that legacy to love my body, even when it's evolving, is really hard at times, but it's necessary. And so my entire kind of movement, Body Courage, is about that. It's about having the courage to love your body, even in your body's evolution, because I'm in my mid-30s now. Back is hurting sometimes when I wake up. Knees ain't kneeing like they used to. I used to have some Meg Thee Stallion knees, baby. Listen, it's not giving Meg anymore, but that's okay. And I still love these knees because they're able to walk, they're able to do what they need to do. But I think that's kind of my entire essence, is trying to love myself even as I evolve.
So did Body Courage help you in your self-love journey?
It did, because I had interviewed over 350 people worldwide about how they felt about their bodies, and those were breast cancer survivors and burn survivors and Olympians and a young gentleman from Northern Ireland who was dealing with early onset Parkinson's and little girls in Chicago who were getting bullied because of their weight. So many people, and I would bring those stories to the stage. And in those interviews, and also interviewing my own family, my grandmother, my mother, I realized that there is no one on the face of this earth that is 100% happy with how they look. There's always something that they wish they would change. Whether in my case with the show, there was a woman I interviewed that had her freckles removed, because like she was bullied about them all the time.
The freckles are so precious.
And freckles are, but that's the thing that she wanted to change, and she went through an excruciating surgery to have them removed. And so for me, that show gave me more confidence in my body to know, wait, I'm not alone in this. This is not an insular issue for me. This is actually a global issue. And that's why I wanted to bring those stories to the stage. And it was so beautiful because at the end of the project, I would ask people to write on Post-its what they loved about their bodies. And at the end of the 5 years, all the Post-its were covering the theater. And you can just see all these things of like, watching your show, I always, I had a mastectomy and I've been really self-conscious, but I'm a survivor now, And I think that's the thing that I want people to take away from this is like, yes, we are survivors, and yes, we can still love our bodies even when it changes. But our legacies are our bodies as well too.
So going into like this new season of Ghost, what can we expect? Like, other than, I know you hit it at like a possible love interest for Alberta.
Yes.
What else can we expect?
This is our best season yet, and I'm claiming that this is our
Emmy season?
I'm praying it down. I'm manifesting it. My cast hates when I say it because they're like, please, Danielle, stop saying it. But I am manifesting that this is our nomination season, right? I feel like this show is one of the best broadcast comedies on TV. We are bringing about 7 to 10 million people to the TV every single week. We're bringing families together, and I feel like the people love this show so much is because we are their families in a way. We are their friends. And so I think that this season is our best season. We're taking huge departures from what we normally see on broadcast comedies. We're dealing with some very heartfelt subjects and topics. Alberta obviously does get a love interest, which is really exciting, but there are some great ghost powers that we find out about this season as well too. And so I think these next 4 episodes in particular are our strongest this season, and I'm so excited that we have a season 4 to explore even more.
And what's amazing about this series is like it originally started in the UK, but your character is unique to our version. And can you speak on like why they decided to bring Alberta into like our version?
Yes, well, Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, who are our incredible showrunners. Joe Port in particular is a historian. And so I just thought it was really beautiful that he wanted to have a 1920s jazz singer because, as we know, the Harlem Renaissance was a gorgeous time for us as Black people and Black artistry. But also, Alberta is she is so boisterous and brassy and laugh out loud funny. And we saw that a lot in season 1. But then now in season 2 and season 3, we really do start to peel the layers back, and she's not the butt of the joke, you know what I mean? She's not there just for the one-liners. We're finding out that she wanted to be a parent, but she passed away too soon. We found out how she got murdered. You know, there's so many
Which was so messed up.
Right? Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? I'm telling you, I'm not going to spoil it. If you want to watch it on Paramount Plus, okay? And CBS on Thursdays. But it's been a delight and so delicious playing Alberta. I've never had a role like this in my life, and I feel like as a plus-size actress, a lot of times you get these occupationally driven roles, whether it's the sassy truck driver, the sassy librarian, the boisterous this, the boisterous that, but that's not this character at all. She is a real human being and with issues and faults and successes and victories, and so it just feels so good being able to play her.
So what about this role? Did it bring something out of you that you didn't know you already had in you?
I have to say that it did bring more confidence. It was also scary playing this role because she is required to sing quite a bit, and I hadn't sang in a very long time. I had vocal nodules many, many years ago that ruined my vocal cords, and so when I got the audition, I was like, oh my God, she sings. And I said, God, if this is meant to be, let it happen. I also don't think a lot of people know I was actually a replacement. There was an original actor playing the role of Alberta, and then the pandemic happened, and she decided she no longer wanted to be in the show. And so that quote, "What's for you is for you," really is true. Yes. And so I'm so grateful that this character came into my life at the time that she came into my life, because I've learned so many more things about myself. I've learned how to love better. I've learned how to live life to the fullest. She passed away when she was in her mid-30s, and I'm in my mid-30s now, and it really makes me want to wake up in the morning and do right in the world. It makes me want to love my family even more and my friends. It makes me want to just do the things that I've always wanted to do, like go on hikes and see the Grand Canyon, and things like that. But I'm so grateful for this show. It has changed my life in every aspect.
Yeah, speaking on God's timing, because I remember you saying when you first got the script, was that the first time you were like, oh my God, this is me? Yes,
it really was. And I remember, because it was a pandemic, we did the self-tape in my kitchen. I had my mother's shake and go wig that I borrowed, and I had my 30th birthday dress and this little faux fur that I had from Amazon. And I was like, well, we'll just put it on tape and see what happens. And my screen test, which is when all the producers and the entire network they were all on Zoom because we couldn't do it in person. And so I was in the middle of my kitchen with my refrigerator in the back doing the audition, and they were like, okay, we really love it. We'll see what happens. And I had a hat on in that screen test. And I remember getting a call from my manager saying, one of the showrunners wants to audition you again without the hat. And I'm like, oh my God, I lost a job. I lost a job for my outfit choice. Lord help me. And so I did the audition without the hat the second time. And now Alberta has this iconic hat that everybody's always talking about in all 3 seasons, especially Thorfinn, who's our Viking. But yeah, it's wild how things turn out.
And one of the scenes I want you to talk about is a very vulnerable scene for your character is when she's preparing for her own funeral.
Yes.
And you did your ode to Viola and How to Get Away with Murder.
Yes.
But like just like stripping away all them layers to show like who Alberta really was in that vulnerable moment.
I feel like for Alberta, she is so hands-on that if she had any option about how she passed away, she would want to be a part of that. She would want to be a part of the makeup choices and the hair choices and what she wore, because she is very glamorous in that crushed velvet. And for me, Viola Davis has changed my life as an artist, and she has been on my vision board since day one, and getting to work with her on Scandal was unreal. And so I wanted to pay, respect to her in that way, because when Viola Davis took that wig off in How to Get Away with Murder, I remember sitting in my living room with my friends screaming, because I'd never seen natural hair on broadcast TV in that way. And so, yeah, it was such an iconic moment that I wanted to pay tribute to. And so I think we did it well, and we did it justice. So, yeah.
And it's so amazing that, like, she remembers you from that one episode. And, like, she gave you your flowers for like where you're at now.
It's unreal. It really is. And I just saw her recently at the Grammys, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. And her amazing husband, Julius, they were like, you're on our TVs every day, because I had a commercial that was running at the same time. So he was like, if it's not the commercial, we're seeing you on Ghost. We're seeing you on social media. He's like, we see you all the time. And so to get that kind of recognition from one of my heroes, it means the world to me.
So looking at your entire journey, did you foresee it 4 years ago coming to this moment, or where did you think it was gonna go?
To be honest, there was a point in my life where my career was so depressing that I didn't even see a future for myself. And there were times in my career where I would just look up to heaven and be like, God, why am I even here? And so I'm so glad that I stuck with it. I'm so glad that I had the community that I had, and that my family was just always around me and praying for me and supporting me, because I could not even imagine this. I was so limited in my thinking. There was a point where all I ever really wanted to do was to perform at a regional theater. And I got to do that at the Goodman Theater, which is like one of my favorite theaters of all time. And then after you do that, you're like, well, what's next? You're like, well, do I keep going back to those theaters, or is there something else? And then when I finally got on TV, it was like, okay, well, what's next? And so right now, I'm just moving with what God has in store for me, because everything that I can imagine is so limited, and he just has the master plan. And so I'm just going with the flow right now. I really am.
I know, that's right. But that's why, like, people who are lives in delusions, the sky's the limit for them.
No, I'm telling you, truly, who knows what's in store, but I'm excited, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface.
And also congratulations, because I know you guys work with Eddie Murphy
on
Kenny King Lane.
Yes.
So congratulations on your first feature film.
Thank you so much.
And I hope there's more to come.
Yes, fingers and toes crossed. I mean, it would be a dream to do more films. That was my first film ever. And it's so funny with that role in particular. It was written for a 30-year-old white woman. And I remember when my manager sent it to me, I was like, wait, what? What is this for? And he said, nope, you're an actor, act. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so I booked the role. And when I got to set, the producers came up to me and they said, listen, this role may not make it in the film. We're just trying something out. And so I talked to my co-star and I said, listen, we have to make it in this film. We got to do everything we got to do. And so I said, we're going to do the scene as is, and then we're just going to improvise for the rest of the day. And that's exactly what we did. And we had people rolling. They were laughing. And then in December, they called. They said, you've made the cut. You've made it into the film. And we've taken some of those improvs and we're going to flesh them out some more. And I said, fantastic. Just being able to share that moment with my family, with my grandmother and my uncles and my mom. We rented out a little theater so we could watch it. It was, that's why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? My grandmother, I got to take her to Wheel of Fortune because we used to watch that together all the time. And she said to me that her being 82 now, these are her best days that she's living. And she thought when she turned 80, she was like, well, I'm just getting ready for the grave. Like, there's really not much left. And she's like, you are making life worth living. And so I'm so glad that I get to share these moments with her and my family, because that's what I'm doing it for.
And we cannot top a close like that. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.
Any last words you want to share?
Listen, follow me at Body Courage and keep watching my stuff, and I'll support you too.
And you guys can catch Ghost every Thursday
Yes.
on CBS, or you can catch it on Paramount Plus.